This video was sponsored by Kurtzpel. How's it going, everybody? Too spooky here. When it comes to the Mortal Kombat lore, one of the more interesting things to me has always been the Lin Kuei. I've always gravitated towards the various ninja from Mortal Kombat, so finding out that there was an entire organization of these ninja made it even more interesting to me personally, even if characters like Scorpion and Reptile, who are supposed to be ninja, weren't a part of that organization. But something else I always found interesting about the Lin Kuei specifically was their decision to transform all of their assassins into cyborgs through the Cyber Initiative. So for this video, I thought it would be an interesting idea to find out more about the Cyber Initiative in terms of why it happened, who it affected, and also a look at the entire event through both the original timeline and the current one. However, before we get started, let's quickly talk about our sponsor today that made this video possible, Kurtzpel. Kurtzpel is an anime-inspired third-person action MMO battle game that will be releasing very soon. Graphically, it's of course highly inspired by anime art styles with cel-shaded graphics, meaning that it doesn't put a huge strain on your PC while you play, all while still looking smooth and rather detailed. As far as the gameplay itself goes, you start out by creating your own character with quite a few different options, which I had a lot of fun playing around with to make the perfect waifu. And then you get thrust into the Kurtzpel world, where you can participate in story-based PvM missions by yourself or with other players, along with extensive PvP content, including straight-up battles or even team PvP like Capture the Flag. The game just finished up a closed beta test globally, which I got to try out, and while the beta may be inaccessible now, the game will once again be releasing very soon, with an official release date coming shortly. Needless to say, I had a lot of fun playing it, and I cannot wait for the game to finally be released. If you want to check out Kurtzpel, well, be sure to follow that link in the description, and a special thanks to them once again for making this video possible. Now, without further ado, let's talk about the Cyber Initiative. To start with a general overview of the Lin Kuei itself, it should be known that this faction is a very ruthless one, especially in its early days. It's a clan that's made up of purely assassins, led by a Grand Master. Many of those in the organization were not there by choice as well, as some of them were even kidnapped into the group as children. While we also know that others have joined or allied themselves with the group on their own terms as well, such as Shujinko. The Lin Kuei is very strict with its conduct, and the question of insubordination or desertion is basically the same as a death wish. Eventually, the Grandmaster had the brilliant idea of converting all of the Lin Kuei warriors into cyborgs, mainly choosing to do this because turning these warriors into cyborgs that they could control would remove any form of free will or insubordination, along with greatly strengthening their killing potential. This would later be known as the Cyber Initiative in the new timeline, however it was never named in the original one. And the Grandmaster's goal was to turn every member of the Lin Kuei into these cyborgs regardless of if the individual consented or not. With that in mind, while many of them were opposed to the cyberization, there were also many who were for it. So the Cyber Initiative essentially split the clan in two sides, and many who were against it ended up fleeing in hopes to keep their limited freedom. Although, most of those who did flee were eventually captured and converted anyway, meaning that few ninja were actually able to escape the initiative. But with that general overview out of the way, let's take a look at what happened in each timeline, starting with the original. In the original timeline, especially within the first few games, the lore of the Cyber Initiative is a lot more limited, but the main four characters involved with this scandal are Sub-Zero, Cyrax, Sector, and Smoke. Basically, between Mortal Kombat 2 and 3, the Grandmaster of the Lin Kuei orchestrated the Cyber Initiative. However, Smoke and Sub-Zero were not on board with those shenanigans at all, so they fled the clan. Sector, who I should note is the son of the Grandmaster, along with Cyrax, were both converted into cyborgs, and they were sent out to pursue Smoke and Sub-Zero with the task of capturing them so that they can be turned into cyborgs as well. Smoke would end up being captured and therefore turned into a cyborg, but Sub-Zero would manage to escape. Transitioning to Mortal Kombat 3, the three cyborgs in our story would now be tasked with simply eliminating Sub-Zero as he is now considered a threat. Eventually during these events, Sub-Zero would have an encounter with Cyber Smoke, and he somehow managed to remind Smoke of his human self, and that the soul of his former self was still inside that mechanical husk. essentially meaning that Sub-Zero was able to convert Smoke back to his regular self, if only temporarily. He also explained to Smoke that Smoke is one of Raiden's chosen warriors, so Smoke decided to side with Sub-Zero once again, and the two of them fought Cyrax and Sector, which ended up in a successful victory. After this, Smoke would end up being captured by Shao Kahn as a trophy of sorts, and locked away in his fortress for the foreseeable future. Sector would end up fleeing, but Cyrax was captured and reprogrammed by Sub-Zero with the task of killing Shao Kahn. Which, a little side note to this, I've always wondered how everyone in Mortal Kombat just happens to know exactly how to reprogram a complex cyborg. It's kinda just like everyone just took a class in Cyborg Reprogramming 101, and they just have the knowledge on hand forever, as this reprogramming thing will happen multiple times throughout this video. I suppose I'm just being a little bit nitpicky, but it just seems a little bit too convenient that everyone just knows how to do this. Anyway, Cyrax wasn't able to follow through with his order to kill Shao Kahn, because Shao Kahn was defeated before Cyrax even got the chance. So after that, Cyrax just kind of sat around waiting for more orders to show up, but unfortunately for him, none ever did. So he ended up malfunctioning and just wandering around until he got stuck in Jade's desert, which is why you can see him stuck in that sand back there. After being stuck in that desert for a while, Cyrax was eventually recovered by the Lin Kuei and reprogrammed to serve them once again, fighting alongside Sector throughout the events of Mortal Kombat 4 or Mortal Kombat Gold. Moving forward to the Deadly Alliance, Cyrax was having flashbacks to his former life, so Sonya and Jax brought him to the Outer World Investigation Agency, which was actually able to restore Cyrax's humanity. Because of that, Cyrax ended up siding with them for the remainder of the original timeline. Smoke would eventually be reprogrammed by Noob after Noob found him deep in Shao Kahn's castle, and Smoke would end up serving Noob until a confrontation with Sub-Zero during the events of Armageddon, finally leaving us with Sector, who was the only remaining cyborg that was loyal and under control of the Lin Kuei at that point. Sector's programming became somewhat corrupted over the course of many different battles with Outworld forces, leading him to believe that the Lin Kuei Grandmaster, his former father, was an inferior leader to the Lin Kuei. So Sector's new goal was to kill the Grandmaster and assume control of the clan, which he did succeed in doing. However, to actually become the Grandmaster, you needed the Dragon Medallion, and before Sector could get it, Sub-Zero returned out of nowhere and claimed the medallion. The two of them then had an intense battle, with Sub-Zero emerging as the victor, making him the new Grandmaster and allowing him to bring the Cyber Initiative to an end. Sector would then flee to Japan, where he would create the Takunin, a new clan led by Sector, which was composed of exclusively Cyber Ninja that were created based on Sector's own image. However, those Cyber Ninja were not near as advanced as Sector himself. Even though Sector had this new and powerful clan behind him, we never actually saw him do anything with it in the original timeline. So the history of the Cyber Initiative in the original timeline ends here. So let's move on to the new timeline. The new timeline follows a somewhat similar pattern, however with a few differences. We begin during the events of what would be Mortal Kombat 1 this time around, where we meet both Cyrax and Sector in their human forms. Because Raiden is trying to change the events of this timeline to stop Armageddon, he tries to convince Cyrax to abandon the Lin Kuei so he isn't cyberized. Cyrax declines to do this out of loyalty, however he is also openly against the Cyber Initiative. Eventually, throughout the tournament, Shang Tsung would betray Cyrax, which led to Cyrax telling Sector to tell the Grandmaster that he is leaving the Lin Kuei. After this, Cyrax must have been captured at some point, because the next time we see him, he, along with Sector, are now both fully cyberized, meaning that the Cyber Initiative had officially begun. We then catch up with Sub-Zero and Smoke, who have already fled the clan, because again, they don't want nothing to do with that noise. Sub-Zero and Smoke then split up, and eventually Smoke is almost captured by Lin Kuei cyborgs, but Raiden interferes to try and alter the timeline once again. However, in Smoke's place, Sub-Zero is eventually captured and cyberized instead, after Cyrax and Sector forcefully remove him from the tournament with Shao Kahn's blessing. So now in this timeline we have Cyber Sub-Zero instead of Cyber Smoke, who at first is under the control of the Lin Kuei. However, the Earthrealm warriors eventually capture Cyber Sub-Zero and reprogram him. Once again, I don't know how they just know how to do that, but whatever. From this reprogramming, we learn that the Cyber Ninja are subjected to something called a slaving protocol, which basically keeps them completely loyal to any orders that are given by the Lin Kuei, and this also completely takes away free will. In addition to that, we also learn that the slaving protocol also lowers brain function as a whole, making the Cyber Ninja just that much more obedient. Through this reprogramming, Sub-Zero is able to get his personality back, although he remains within a cyber body, of course. Cyber Sub-Zero then fought and defeated Sector after Sector found out that he had been reprogrammed. Much later on, Nightwolf would be the one to eventually defeat Cyrax, and after Smoke was struggling to beat Sector, Nightwolf defeated him as well. Cyber Sub-Zero and Smoke would then go on to fight Sindel with the other Earthrealm warriors. However, they would all eventually be killed by her. Quan Chi then resurrected them as Revenants along with all the other warriors. Next time we would see Sub-Zero would be in Mortal Kombat X as a Revenant. However, the only thing is, he is no longer in his cyber form, but back in his human form. What the fuck? The events that made this possible were not told in the games, but instead the Mortal Kombat X comics, which is why it seems kinda weird that Sub-Zero went from a cyborg back to a human form out of nowhere. But basically, to sum it up, Quan Chi ripped what remained of Sub-Zero's human body out of the cyber one, and then used his magic to regrow his human body. Then when we get to the actual events of Mortal Kombat X, Sub-Zero is defeated by the Special Forces and rescued by Raiden. He would then go on to train with Boraicho for some time. While these events were happening, Sector would go and kill the Grand Master of the Lin Kuei, similar to the original timeline. However, this time around he would actually successfully assume command for some time. During his rule, he forced every remaining member of the Lin Kuei to be converted into a cyborg if they weren't already, or kill them if they refused. He would then also create a cloning program that would mass create cyborgs for the sole purpose of serving him, similar to his Takunin clan from the original timeline. Cyrax was still trapped under his slave protocol, and therefore served as Sector's second in command during this time. Eventually, after Sub-Zero was done training, he would go to the Lin Kuei's base and install a virus that would free every cyborg from their slave protocol, and battle with Sector in a one-on-one fight, which would end with Sub-Zero beheading Sector. Because Cyrax was freed of the slave protocol, he was now in control of his mind and body completely once again. The cyborgs that were created through Sector's cloning program were then quick to declare Cyrax their new leader, as he was the only remaining cyborg from the original Cyber Initiative. Cyrax would accept, but then ask to speak to Sub-Zero alone, which his new followers accepted. Sub-Zero expected Cyrax to lead with him and help him restore everyone back to their human forms. However, knowing the corruption that took place throughout the Cyber Initiative, Cyrax insisted that Sub-Zero lead the Lin Kuei with a clean slate. He then activated his self-destruct system before walking into the remaining cyborgs and blowing all of them up, which would lead to the official end of the Cyber Initiative altogether. However, there is still one thing we need to discuss before we end this video. Although the Cyber Initiative was now over, and all the Cyberized Ninja were either restored or killed, there was still one loose end that was created accidentally. Before the Cyber Initiative officially began, the Grandmaster of the Lin Kuei wanted to make sure to eliminate every warrior's human weakness and enhance their power and intellect at the same time. So he made every member of the Lin Kuei take some sort of tests that recorded their physical and mental likenesses, which would end up being stored in an off-site database. After the destruction of the Cyber Ninja at the hands of Sub-Zero sometime later, the Special Forces would eventually find this data and decide to bring it back to a secret weapons lab, where they downloaded the contents into a completely robotic test body with the purpose of using their power as a weapon. However, during that process, the consciousness of Sector, Smoke, and Cyrax took over that test body and killed everyone in that weapons lab. They then gave themselves the name Triborg and set out on a quest to eradicate organic life as a whole. So that's how Triborg came to be. Thanks, Special Forces, you done f***ed up. There's also one more tidbit of information about Triborg. However, since it's his ending, the contents are not confirmed to be canon or non-canon yet. Basically, in Triborg's ending, it turned its focus specifically to the special forces and killed every single one of them, including Sonya and basically any other special forces member that you can imagine. Triborg would then find the Lin Kuei data on dozens of members and download it, and using the contents of that weapons lab, Triborg was able to construct a new robotic body for each member of the former Lin Kuei that was downloaded, reviving the Cyber Ninja completely, but this time in a completely robotic fashion. Due to the fact that Sub-Zero tainted the name of the Lin Kuei in Triborg's opinion, Triborg decided to start and lead a new organization, which would be considered the new deadliest clan in the realms, the Takunin. So we'll just have to wait and see if Triborg comes back for any future Mortal Kombat games to solidify this ending as canon or non-canon. But that basically sums up the various incarnations of the Cyber Initiative, along with how it operated in each timeline, along with the events that would follow. Hopefully you guys learned something new or found a better understanding of how the Cyber Initiative worked. If you did, well, make sure to drop a like. We have yet to see if any of the Cyber Ninjas will be in Mortal Kombat 11, but since this game will be focusing on different time periods of Mortal Kombat, there's always a chance that we could see at the very least one of them return. Be sure to comment which characters or elements of Mortal Kombat you would like to learn about next, and subscribe with those notifications on so you don't miss the next Mortal Kombat related video. Special thanks once again to Kurtzpel for sponsoring this video. Once again, you can find a link to that in the description, which will take you to the Kurtzpel Steam page, and then you can add it to your wish list so that it'll download as soon as it releases. If you cannot get enough Mortal Kombat related content, well, be sure to click here for 25 facts about Smoke and Cyber Smoke. Otherwise, click here for 25 facts about Noob Saibot or 25 facts about Reptile. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all soon with a new video.